says that they didn't expect this from our generation.
We always suspect that the police stage crime in our area, but this particular time, I knew I got them.
How do you think the situation is economically now as opposed to 6 months ago?
The FBI has fired Agent Peter Strzok, whose anti-Trump text messages were cited by President Trump and his allies as evidence of FBI bias, and led Strzok to defend his integrity in front of the House Judiciary Committee last month. Democrats are now bigger fans of socialism than capitalism, but it's not that support for socialism is growing. It's just that capitalism seems to be losing its sheen. 47% of Democrats reported a positive view of capitalism, a drop of nearly 10% from 2 years ago. Elon Musk has revealed exactly who he was referring to when he declared he had funding secured to take Tesla private: Saudi Arabia. With an estimated $230 billion in assets, the country's public investment fund already owns about 5% of Tesla, as well as a 5% stake in Uber. 5 countries bordering the Caspian Sea have agreed to divvy up the body of water, moving to end a debate that's raged since the Soviet Union collapsed. The pact treats the sea's surface as international waters, while the seabed and its potentially vast oil and gas resources will be divided into zones, though the countries still need to sort out where to draw the lines.
Don't use profanity. You can write BS, obviously.
Wait, can you grab me the black one? David, can I pull this from under? Thank you. All right, I promise you this one will be good. I mean, yeah, we make a lot of banners, but like, doesn't mean I get good at them.
We're listening to Smash Mouth for like one song. One song.
After a gunman killed 17 people at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School, students started making posters and phone calls.
You could do vote and then do like an acrostic, like VOTE.
What began as a march on DC has morphed into a nationwide movement with the same name, March for Our Lives. The students spent their summer vacation traveling the country on a 20-state bus tour, registering voters and encouraging them to vote for politicians who will enact gun reform.
And that QR code right there, if you scan it with your iPhone or any phone, just with the camera, it will bring you to our Register to Vote page on our website.
The operation is strategic and tightly managed, with job titles borrowed from the corporate world.
I'm the creative director for March for Our Lives. I'm the chief strategist at March for Our Lives.
Creative director, what does your job entail? Why do you laugh?
No, it's because...
You guys have like these big titles. I mean, you know,
it's about getting everything done, right? And it's always about like what needs to be done for this to be successful.
Like, I mean, mostly what we're advocating for is something like background checks. Like, that's something that y'all support.
Being a creative director, it's just for this brand, it's like knowing that like we can do anything, and it's finding different, innovative and creative ways to get things done.
Yeah, what's the value in seeing this as a brand?
It's not a brand.
Yeah. It's about creating a table that doesn't have a limit on the seating, right? Like about creating something that every single person in this country can see themselves in. And so if we can continue to educate people and mobilize people, then we'll get people who actually care. Because that's all we want. We want morally just leaders in office.
The morally just leaders they want are politicians who support their 10-point platform for gun safety, which includes universal background checks, a ban on high-capacity magazines, and disarming domestic abusers. They're pushing the message using the tools they know best.
I've been on Twitter since I was like 11, and I think Twitter is probably the most useful platform to be able to put out a quick story and get a lot of people's attention, get a lot of impressions, and get a lot of people to look at it. I love staring at the tweets and reading it like over and over and over and over and showing other people and saying like, does this hit you? Like, does the message hit you like it should, or is it too weak? Should I change the wording?
At our school, there were good guys with guns, and they couldn't stop him.
Just be on message and making sure that things that we say can't as easily be cut out of context.
I always try to edit my photos, especially on Instagram, so they're like visually appealing with a bunch of colors, some saturation, and I just like post things that I would want to see.
1, 2, 3.
Also Facebook, but Facebook I'm not really qualified with because I feel like it's an older audience.
We really like to focus on local media because it's actually a strategy that President Trump used. Honestly, I didn't know that. And so we just did some research on President Trump's campaign and the success of it, and it's true.
So a lot of it's just making sure that the story is being told the right way.
You're sort of like controlling the narrative here. You're like putting out the message that you guys want out there without media sort of pulling it apart.
It's not controlling the narrative, it's telling the truth. I mean, if everyone was living in reality and saw what was going on day to day in this country, they'd all be pissed.
Their media fluency has made them the most recognizable faces of the gun debate. But Parkland students want the movement to be about more than just them. They appear with local activists at every stop and invite other young people from across the country to join the tour and talk about their experiences.
I hear gunshots in like the streets and it's normalized for me. Like it's a conditioned reality. Like if I don't hear gunshots before I go to sleep, then that's not a regular day.
I've only experienced violence one day in my life. And like, yes, it was traumatic, and yes, it's gonna stay with me in my entire life, but like, I don't have that deep-rooted trauma like Bria has.
You can't preach about progressing forward, like unity, if you don't have every single person at the table speaking about their own story.
But this isn't the first time mass shooting survivors have pushed for change.
Ultimately, 32 people were killed. There were roughly 17 people who were injured from the shooting.
Thank you, man. I appreciated this a lot.
The community around Virginia Tech mobilized a lot of people too. What is it about the Parkland students that allowed them to create March for Our Lives, and why didn't that happen beforehand?
The gun safety issue might have gotten kind of caught in kind of this old pundit talk back and forth, and they were able to be a young voice to pierce through that and say, this is jacked up. We don't care how you guys are arguing. We need something done now.
When you think of all the jobs that make this tour happen, that make this movement happen, is there anything that the students aren't doing that like the adults are doing?
No. There are only a few adults to help us with like legal things, but like it's truly run and sustained by us. And we're not funded by any like random people. Like it's all from families around the country that are supporting us. It's such an organic, purely grassroots organization.
While their fundraising is grassroots, some of the families supporting the students are the Spielbergs, the Clooneys, and Oprah Winfrey. Other adults helping out include an advance team, a PR team, the Town Hall Project, an 11,000-strong network of Stoneman Douglas High School alumni.
Guns don't kill people, people kill people!
The scale of the operation has given gun rights activists, some of whom have taken to trailing the students, plenty to seize on.
The message from the students is we're not gun grabbers. We're not anti-Second Amendment. The message from the promoters is we're coming to get your guns. If you look at number 5 under their 10 policy point memo.
What do you mean promoters?
The promoters are those who are writing the checks and managing and promoting the March for Our Lives. I mean, make no mistake about it. There are men with very large checkbooks that have facilitated, basically putting these kids out as the faces of gun control in America right now.
The kids, the students say that they're really doing this themselves. And when I talk to the PR people, they say they're our boss.
That's what they say. Well, I know what it costs to run promotions because that's what I do as well. I can tell you this is a multi-million-dollar operation. And unless you've got hundreds of millions of followers donating, a percentage of those people donating, it just doesn't pass the ho-ho test, right? It doesn't.
I donated.
Yeah. So, and
I donated. Yeah.
Well, so to you guys back here, you feel like it's grassroots because you're the ones donating. Yeah. And what do you say?
And they did an awesome job.
I say I totally believe it, but it's not enough.
Even with money, discipline, and savant-like instincts for media, young people making progress on a divisive political issue can still feel like a long shot. But those who created change just a couple generations ago don't see it that way.
Too many people in my age bracket are quick to criticize young folk. I see myself when I look out and see these young people. We were committed, we were focused, we built coalitions.
It reminds me very much of our youth when we started this. I mean, we're talking about people who were 15, 16, who realized that things just weren't right and wanted to do something about it. And they, along with some others, decided this is our time. This is our time. You wake up and you say, this is our time.
As many of the students go back to school this week, the obvious question is, can they keep this up? The challenge is something they're keenly aware of.
It's not about being on a headline every day. It's about actually connecting with people, and that's all we care about. I mean, this is incredible. So it's just about this energy and bringing this everywhere.
We've had 55 gun laws passed in over 25 states since February 14th. That's a lot more than the past couple of years even.
Everyone says that they didn't expect this from our generation. They thought we were all egotistical and lazy and self-absorbed. Yeah, we are absorbed in our technology. Yeah, we are kind of like egotistical in a way because we know what we want and we know how to get it and we won't shut up until we do.
Police across the country routinely use bait traps to try to catch thieves in the act. They set up a tempting bike or a car, and then they watch. But in Chicago last week, the tactic backfired.
So y'all see this? Listen, this is live, uncut, unedited. Bait truck.
Charles McKenzie was born and raised in Englewood in southwest Chicago. So when he saw an unmarked 18-wheeler being parked and reparked around his neighborhood, he knew something was up.
They sent people up with this truck right there.
So this is where you were when you were taking the video with your phone, right?
Yes.
So you're seeing, what are you seeing?
As I pulled up and approached the situation, I saw the officer putting the young man in the car. You know, and I was standing right here, and then I got closer to right here to see what everything was going on. They
Y'all parked an empty Nike truck with Nike boxes in the ghetto.
What Charles caught on video was a new program the police had nicknamed Operation Trailer Trap. Police from Norfolk Southern Railways loaded the truck with Nike Air Force One sneakers and Christian Louboutin shoes. 3 people were arrested for theft in what police call a sting, but neighbors call a setup. Chicago PD said they were only brought in to make arrests, and the charges have since been dropped.
Hey, you don't think that's some bullshit on me?
We always suspect that the police stage crime in our area, but we never able to prove it or document it on film. But this particular time, I knew I got it. Live, uncut. Uncut, people, I got it. Y'all know this script. In the black community, we're over police and we have the most crime. So you would think if we have the most police in our community, we should have less crime, but that's not the case. Well, them young boys gonna jump on this boy, they're gonna be in trouble.
The timing of Operation Trailer Trap came right after a weekend in which more than 70 people were shot and at least 12 people died.
So it's up to me and my command staff to try and repair those relationships in the community. And we're making progress.
Police have said that they need the community's help to solve those crimes. But the bait trucks seem to have hurt police's goal to gain the community's trust.
Since the people have seen bait trucks,
right?
What do you think that's done just around the neighborhood?
Oh man, the antennas have went up like, hey, we can't trust the cops. We can't trust them. Why? Because the cops preach transparency, but you practice something else. In the city of Chicago, we have an 83% murder rate that's unsolved. That same energy could have been used into finding the criminals, the murderers.
Norfolk Southern says the bait truck operation was aimed at catching people who've been stealing cargo, including guns and ammunition, from a nearby rail yard.
But my whole thing is, if these crimes are happening on your property, why are you bringing it into our community? If you gonna run a sting, be on the freight yard, in y'all yard, and on the railroad tracks, and wait on them. They're gonna come. When you pull up a truck in front of an impoverished community, and they see that it's an opportunity, come on, who's not gonna take it? These people are in survival mode.
That's crazy. Yeah, they're crazy. They try to set us up in our neighborhood. Yeah, that's what they do, man.
The videos that were posted online prompted so much outrage that Norfolk Southern eventually apologized, saying that they don't plan to use that method in the future.
The railroad police have apologized, and they've said that they regret that they've made people feel that they couldn't trust police.
Well, let me say this to the railroad, and you can take this message back to them. Are you sorry because you got caught? Or are you really sorry that you should have never done it?
They left a bait truck.
Iran's supreme leader said today that his government won't hold talks with the Trump administration. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says President Trump's move to withdraw from the nuclear deal is proof that the White House can't be trusted. And in his view, cutting a new deal won't help Iran's crashing economy. He blames the country's government, not U.S. sanctions.
الو سلام وقت شما هم بخیر مرسی من الان درخواستتون رو قبول کردم شما کجا هستین دقیقاً؟
Majid Fatemi is a driver for Iran's version of Uber.
شغل اولم که خب تئاتر من فولکلور دنس کار میکنم رقص محلی خودمون شغل دومم که کار با ماشین حالا توی شرکت تپسی سلام
Tapsi is one of several ride-sharing apps launched in the run-up to the lifting of US sanctions in 2015.
خب شرکت قبل تشریف برید چشم
Now sanctions are back, Majid's profit margins aren't looking so good.
I mean, can you save money from doing this?
Oh, هرگز. Never.
Majid gave roughly 2 months' rent as a down payment to buy the car. It seemed like a good investment at the time.
حداقلش اینه که نقدینگی داری پولت میاد تو جیب خودت آقا بالا سر نداری.
How much does it cost to run a car like this?
ماشین من الان چون که 0 کیلومتر یعنی خریدم الان 2 سال از تولیدش میگذره رانندگی با همین به خرج نیافتادنش فکر میکنم چیزی در حدود 300 تا 400 هزار تومان در ماه کم هزینه باید بکنم.
It's a Peugeot 206 manufactured in Iran under an agreement with the French company. But with sanctions falling again, Peugeot says it plans to scale back in Iran.
Salam.
And Majid and his passengers say the general outlook is bleak.
How do you think the situation is economically now as opposed to 6 months ago?
مسلماً خیلی بدتره دیگه. خرید کردن قدرت خرید میاد پایین دیگه.
What are the biggest costs for you?
خب هر سه دیگه چون زندگی همه تاثیر میذاره دیگه تاثیر منفی باشه قیمت دلار که میره بالا هزینه میره بالا اجاره حالا هزینه‌های مثلا همین رفت و آمد کرایه‌های خونه خرید خونه قیمت ماشین هم افزایش پیدا میکنه دیگه.
How much do you need to make to have a good standard of living right now?
الان شما حساب کنید درآمدی که ما داریم مثلا در ماه 1.5 میلیون تومان 2 میلیون تومان درآمد اگر به دلار بخواید تبدیلش کنیم واقعا هیچ مبلغی نیست هیچ کاری باش نمیشه کرد.
To save money, Majid lives with his parents in the small bedroom he's had since childhood. The family describes itself as middle class. But with Majid's dad retiring, his mom has to work long hours as a substitute teacher.
کارمون یه شغل پردرآمدی نیست خیلی یه جوریه که بتونیم یه مقدار امورات زندگی رو بچرخونیم. شغل پردرآمدی مثل خیلیای دیگه نیستش که بگم مثلا میتونیم آنچنان زندگی کنیم.
For months now, Iran has been rocked by protests over the flagging economy. Anger at rising costs has brought demonstrations in Tehran, Esfahan, and several other cities. Iran's currency is worth only half as much as it was in April, before Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal. And it's not just at street level where things have gotten more difficult. Businesses are already feeling the impact of returning sanctions as well. Milad Monshipour is founder and CEO of Tapsi.
We haven't yet seen the impacts of the recent events on flow of funds, but we definitely foresee it coming, and probably that will encourage startups and companies to look for money mostly domestically.
So this part's pretty standard. I give my phone
number. So you enter your phone number, they send you
a code. Yeah.
Sanctions aren't just cutting off cash, they're cutting off data and customers.
Have things gotten more difficult recently?
The main problem is that not being ready for what happens. For example, when we were removed from the app stores, we were actually very much surprised.
So the app got taken off Google Play?
Google Play and App Store, Apple App Store.
What are the other things that are tricky with making an app like this in Iran?
Well, because we have a lot of dependencies to map services, and we can make transactions with some companies that provide the services. So, for example, we need to estimate the arrival time between two locations. Other services, they actually get this service, most of them get this service from Google. So
that's a hard thing to do if you don't have access to Google Map, for example.
Exactly.
For ordinary Iranians trying to make a living, the situation is more urgent.
How do you feel in general about the future of the economy?
فکر نمی‌کنم آینده اقتصادی خوبی داشته باشیم در آینده، چون این اتفاقای بعد پشت سر هم دیگه داره میفته و اصلا خوشایند نیست به نظر من.
She's so great! Great, love that. I feel so awkward and weird.
All the old buildings stood, and they keep digging it down, so let the cars live underground.
This kind of reminds me of Beck a little bit, like the slidey guitar. I'll pass on a tambourine generally. It's not my favorite instrument. I think they're kind of annoying. Hard to keep time on a tambourine. It's actually like pretty skillful. Okay, so I have really strong feelings about Ariana Grande. God is a Woman, great title. I just kind of feel like she's the best pop star right now. The songs that she is releasing are super progressive for like top 40. Her voice is just like super dynamic. My voice compared to Ariana's voice, it's like you could not get two further apart like voices ever. She has like range and pitch and tone, and I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like a stan, I'm an Ariana stan. That's my favorite song that you've played me so far. I love the vocal production. The chop is really good, feels very epic.
I'm tongue-tied inside with a little bit of love mixed in to mold myself this solitude.
Okay, so I would have fucked with that when I was like 15, 16, in my like Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy. It's very nostalgic for me because it reminds me of like my emo phase. It reminds me of like the time I like threw all the colored clothes out of my wardrobe and was like fucking miserable, but inside really happy, but it was like, I have to be miserable to be cool, man.